Okay, we are live. Hello, my name is Colin, and welcome to episode 16 of Roll by Roll's Tavern Talk. Can you imagine 16 already?
Where does the time go?
Yeah. This is a show where we, the Roll by Roll gang, discuss various aspects of running a great D&D campaign based on our experiences with D&D 5e and our current adventures in Emathan homebrew campaign. All right, joining me tonight are the rest of the Roll by Roll crew. Why don't so guys, you can introduce your characters. Barry, why don't you start off? Introduce your characters in
Hey,
our campaign.
I'm Barry, and I play Nightingale, the Penumbra Bard, and Landis, the Order of the Scribes Wizard.
Awesome, Egan.
And
Nope, you had something
Yes.
else to say?
no, I was trying to get as creative as Egan was the other night, but I failed.
I didn't prepare a speech tonight, but hey, you say 16, we all look older than that. But anyway, I play Lafferty Jones, an artificer slash void sorcerer, as well as Douglas McCain, an Oath of the Protector paladin.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Max.
Kogan Dremnofinstrun Ma is a gold dragon-born rune knight fighter.
He's a force to be reckoned with. That's what that guy is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty fun.
absolutely.
It's fun.
All right, so tonight we're going to talk about D&D spells we like
Very
and
emotional.
spells. Yeah, clearly, it's getting me right in the windpipe already. And spells we don't like. Why are we doing that? Well, because spells are cool and a huge part of what makes D&D what it is. Certainly, fantasy adventure. So, to start off, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball at you, boys. Max, I'm going to start with you.
All right.
So, Max, you're a spellcaster. Spell components or spell focus?
I love the idea of spell components. To me, it's just fun. However you want to if you want to be epic, you give your wizard a cost for them too. Just as just a little bit of housekeeping you have to do to make it feel like you're acquiring spell components to cast these spells, and it just it gives you a chance for more flair description when you're casting the spells, because it includes what the spell components are in the spells, right? So I'm a big fan of spell components. I like the idea of wizards, that whole classic imagery of multiple pockets in all their robes, and they're just slinging stuff all over the place. That's so cool to me. I love that.
Cool,
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Egan,
I
spell
think it
components
depends.
or spell focus?
I'm going to say it depends. A bard, focus. Come on.
Fair enough.
Ding,
Yeah.
ding.
That's a
Wizard 100% components 100%. A cleric, that's a focus, that's the divine channeling through you, right? Although again, most of those are already designated that way, but for me it really does depend. I like them both, and I think they should be enforced, like Max said, with wizards and Eye of Newt and frog scrotum, whatever the heck you need. That's what you gotta do.
What spell is that for?
Yeah.
I'll have to recheck the material list.
The jump spell.
Barry, spell components or spell focus?
I'm unfortunately I'm on the fence on this one. I love the idea, like Max, how you said, that whole spell components things. It's wizards of old where they're grabbing this and that. But I just think with some like visions you have of your wizard, there's a spell focus. Now they both bring pros and cons.
Yeah.
You don't have components, you can't cast spells. Whereas if you have a spell focus and the thief steals it from you, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
So, they both got the pros and cons. And, right now, Landis uses a spell focus. He's the Order of the Scribes, so he always has his hand on his spell book when he's casting. Right? That's his spell focus, is his spell book. So, it's all how you want to play your wizard. It's got great flavor both ways, great risks both ways. But I started off playing Nightingale, who's a bard, and I know Egan, you were like, "Oh, bards need to play." He has spell components, man. He casts a sleep spell. He's grabbing a handful of sand and blowing it towards people. I just thought it would be really interesting with a class that doesn't have a lot of spells. It's easier to do spell components. So I was leaning more that way that he's going to have for the few spells he has, because magic is something that's different than playing music for him. It's spell components, so it's all the flavor of the character you want, in my opinion.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Barry. I like the fact that both are available because it does give you some flexibility in the way you build, the way you see your spellcaster. I like having spell components available, especially if you have a campaign where maybe your group really likes to keep track of the nuts and bolts, where you're very particular on sleep and water and food and spell components and weight and things like that, where you like keeping track of all that. If you have a real sort of exploration campaign where all of a sudden your spellcaster is out looking around, for potential spell components to be able to cast. So I like them both. I like them both too. I think I like the flexibility. Okay, so to get into the meat of the night here, why don't you start off, Max, with what spell you really like and why?
All right, for me, I mean, it's hard to say if this is my exact number one. You know what I mean? There's a lot of spells, but it's definitely top 5 for sure. And it's Bigby's Hand. It's a level 5 spell. I believe it's evocation. So I'll give you the Cole's notes. You create a large hand of shimmering translucent force in an unoccupied space that you can see within range. The range is 120 feet, so pretty substantial. The hand lasts for 1 minute, and it moves at your command, mimicking the movements of your own hand. So you can have some fun, like with how you would describe your spell casting there. It's a concentration spell. It has its own AC of 20, and it has its own hit points, which match your hit points, and a strength score of 26, which is a +8 for different sorts of rolls. And then when you cast this spell, and as a bonus action on your subsequent turns, you can move the hand up to 60 feet and then cause one of the following effects. And there's 4 different effects. One's a clenched fist, so you just pound someone in submission. Forceful hand will allow you to push creatures up to a certain distance. Grasping hand allows you to kind of grapple a creature and do subsequent damage to it on following turns if they're still grasped. And then interposing hand, you just declare who you're interposing, and it acts as a shield, and it purposefully puts itself between you and the creature that's coming at you. So
talk to the hand.
Yeah, pretty much. I love this. It's just a ton of different options. To me, it's kind of like the heart at what spellcasting is all about in one spell, you know what I mean? Which is just tons of variety and utility and damage and shielding and all that sort of stuff. And the fact that you can use it after you've casted it as a bonus action on each turn means that you're free to cast other non-concentration spells afterwards, or if you're something crazy like a blade singing wizard, who can use melee as well. You know what I mean? Just like there's just tons of flexibility in this spell, and I've always loved this spell. So that's it.
Yeah, it is a very utility spell.
Yeah.
In terms of all the things that it can do,
while still doing damage. So
it's one of those spells that reward creativity.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And lend itself very well to that. Yeah. Good choice.
Egan.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, my epic spell is just a 3rd level spell. It is Hypnotic Pattern.
Hate it. Oh, sorry.
I will 3rd level spell. It's an illusion. Takes an action to cast. Concentration up to 1 minute. You create a twisting pattern of colors that weaves through the air inside of a 30-foot cube within range. What I love about this, and there are many things. First, range of 120 feet. You can sit back. None of your robes or your slippers will get dirty. You could sit there on a rocking chair and enjoy the show. That's one of the things. I also like that it goes after wisdom. And wisdom, my understanding is that a majority of, let's say, creatures in the monster manual, their wisdom tends to be the lowest as far as their defenses. So that's another, bonus to this. Um, in a 30-foot cube, and I know unrealistic, but I was mentioning before the show, let's say you come upon a bunch of acolytes that are performing a ceremony, and they're in a perfect 6 by 6 row, all standing 5 feet apart. Hey, it could happen.
It could happen.
You can affect up to 36 people. I mean, that is incredible.
If they're standing on their shoulders.
No, every 5 feet.
I know, and you got people on top of each
there you
other's
go.
shoulders
There
at
you
the
go.
same time.
Yeah,
We're
there you
talking
you can double it.
180 whatever people, 194 people. Maybe.
But still, within a 30-foot cube, you can affect
That's a big area of influence.
Yeah. And they're completely incapacitated. There's no follow-up save, which is another fantastic part of this. Slow is great, but I think you can redo the save after. And since I'm a pacifist and I abhor violence, you can do this without hurting anybody. They're just enjoying a Grateful Dead concert while they're completely out of the fight for a full minute. No verbal component. Speaking of, components or focus, which is, I think, a fantastic bonus in case someone casts something that prevents you from doing that. And the other thing I like about it, that even as a 3rd level spell, this in essence levels up, because granted that wizards, as you get higher levels, the wisdom will be a little bit stronger sometimes, but 10th, 12th, 13th level, this could be as effective as it is as a 3rd level. So yeah, I am a huge fan of Hypnotic Pattern, and from experience, it has gotten us out of many a sticky situation.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's AKA Grateful Dead concert, isn't it?
Yep.
For us, yeah. I'm not a fan of that spell because it freaking nerfs battles all the time. But I mean, sometimes that's a really pivotal moment when the party's getting handed their asses to them, right? So, Barry.
Well, I'm going to go with a level 2 enchantment spell. It's one of my favorites. I haven't used it yet in our current campaign, but damn, am I itching for that moment. It is the spell Suggestion. You suggest a course of activity limited to a sentence or two to a target you can see within range. They get a wisdom saving throw. On a fail, they have to pursue that course of action as described to the best of their ability. Now, there's little subtle nuances. If you attack them, they break it, but they don't get a saving throw until it's just a 1. And then after that, if you are a creative person, the power you can have with suggestion in a game, especially a role play heavy game, it's the wish spell, man. Like, how easy would it be for Landis to suggest to the captain of our flying ship that he should sign the papers over to Landis? Because that's what his father wanted. Sounds convincing enough, So, I find it's a very powerful spell. It can be used in a lot of really interesting ways. You can set up triggers for them, so you could find a city guard captain in a bar, cast suggestion on him, and then the next time you guys show up to the gates, oh my God, he knows you. You're old friends. Come right through, no questions asked. So if you're a smuggler or you're trying to get something into some place, the spell is invaluable. And it's concentration, and you can hold it for up to 8 hours. So that's a lot of time for shenanigans to happen. Components wise, if we're going to dig down that trail, it's a snake tongue and either a bit of honeycomb or a drop of sweet oil. So you're a sweet talking serpent making people do stuff they don't want to do. How cool. Perfect is that? Range 30 feet and it's an action. But for a 2nd level spell, in the right hands, this is incredibly powerful and can really change encounters. It does not upcast, unfortunately. It's only ever one person, but later in the game you can get mass suggestion.
Oh yeah, that's right. Mass suggestion.
Which is even more deadly.
You mess some shit up there.
Yeah, you could really throw a wrench in the DM's plans when you suggest to the NPC something completely different of a course of action.
Are you suggesting we should like this spell?
I suggest you all should roll
I
a
feel
wisdom
like I
check,
rolled
please.
under my wisdom check all of a sudden.
All right. For me, my favorite spell is really from a nostalgia standpoint. We were talking before tonight. I just love Magic Missile.
Oh, I knew it. I knew you were gonna say
Magic
The
Missile.
classic.
Oh yeah, it's just the classic D&D spell. It's also it's a pretty good first level spell, you know.
yeah.
When you look at its potential damage, it is essentially 3d4 plus 3. So I mean you're looking at a minimum damage 6, which is pretty good for a first level spell in terms of minimum damage. I mean maximum damage of 15. You know, so
Yeah.
that's pretty good. But for me, it's not even about that. It's about the fact that, you know, when I first started to play D&D, Magic Missile was like the first spell I think I ever really had, and it's the one I always think about, you know, when I think about D&D. So, I mean, quickly, you create 3 glowing darts of magic force. Each dart hits a creature of your choice that you can see within range. A dart deals 1d4 plus 1 force damage to its target. The darts all strike simultaneously, and you direct them to one creature or several, which is a nice little thing. You could actually hit 3 different targets with that. And it does upcast. So when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 2nd level or higher, the spell creates 1 more dart for each slot level above 1st. So deal a little bit of damage there, but I just love it for sentimental reasons. Just an old softy, me and my Magic Missile.
Magic Missile is the concentration killer for wizards,
Yeah,
man.
I was gonna say it's a really good tactical spell for that.
Yeah.
Too.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for
'Cause
sure.
they got to make 3 separate rolls, and they're all hits unless he uses shield. So it's a tough one. And it's a low level, so it's a great use of resources.
A great wand magic item.
Oh,
Magic
yeah.
spells, you know,
Yeah.
just really good. Yeah, fun times.
So we got our super fan on again with us tonight, and
sweet.
I was asking their favorite spell, Wish. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
hard to argue with that one. But a second would be Hold Person,
yeah,
which
hold
is,
person.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another absolute. That's another like hypnotic pattern, and you know where it really can just change one or more of the NPCs in a battle. Like that can really turn the tide of a battle if it's used strategically, right?
I mean,
so
if you set up your melee characters, they're automatically criticals
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
hit someone who's
Yeah.
paralyzed. So it's
Yeah.
just, it's
It's
unreal.
brutal. It's
Hold
brutal.
a
Yeah.
monster at a higher level, you can get even more.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Good
All right.
choice.
So on the flip side of that one, we have spells that we dislike and why. So Max, start us off again.
All right, this one, it's a low level spell, and there's 2 spells, but they're basically variations on the same thing. So it's create food and water / Goodberry, and I just think they trivialized one of the pillars of D&D, which is exploration, and you know, I know people don't. There's a lot of people who don't like to play kind of I don't know what to describe it, meticulous
Survival.
kind of games, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but
Resource heavy.
yeah, resource heavy, but you don't have to play resource heavy game for some survival mechanics, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this just
Yeah.
negates it completely.
Yeah.
They're like, oh man, like I don't understand why they created this spell. It's like if people don't want to have a survival game, just don't play a survival style game. But don't make this spell available to people. You know what I mean? Because now it just trivializes that aspect of it. And so You know, and I say this, obviously there's a DM component there, but even as a player, you know, I
What's
want
the
that
spell?
experience sometimes to just be struggling to forage and see how that goes, and maybe we'll mess up sometimes, but this completely removes that die roll out of the equation, and it's just like it really, I think, just takes away from one of the core aspects of what the game's about.
Yeah,
Personally,
if you're playing an exploration heavy campaign where that accounting of food and water and spell components and all the things we were just talking about, that can really just, like you said, it can really just, make one of those
pointless.
elements
Yeah.
pointless, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
And this
Egan?
is, I did you say the spell? Goodberry and create food and water? I didn't
Yeah,
hear
Yeah.
the.
yeah,
You did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
could explain them, I guess. Well, creating food and water is pretty explanatory,
Yeah.
and it's not like a small amount either. It's a lot.
Yeah.
45 pounds of food
Yeah.
and 30 gallons of water.
Yeah.
Uh,
Every day.
yeah, it's enough to sustain up to 15 humanoids or 5 steeds for 24 hours.
yeah. I mean, that's
And then once you take your long rest after traveling for the day, you got it again for the next day. And good berries basically the same thing. You create 10 of these magical berries that can heal you a little bit and sustain your hunger for a whole day. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't like it.
no, sir, I don't like it.
I don't like it
Yes.
at all.
So, anyways, that's one of my top hated.
I agree. That can really take a big part of, if exploration is a big pillar of the way your group plays.
Yeah.
I think as a DM, I would almost say, nope.
Oh, I'd ban
those spells aren't
Yeah.
allowed for this.
If that's the
this
style of game
particular-
you're playing, then you can't have that spell. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Egan, what do you dislike?
Well, sticking with the theme, my pathetic on the
Oh,
flip
yeah, that's
side
right.
of the epic is
epic pathetic.
this is probably on everybody's list. True Strike. I know it's just a cantrip. So divination cantrip, one action, range of 30 feet, concentration up to 1 minute. You basically take your turn to roll 2 dice the next round. Last I checked, you could roll once the first round and once the second round and
Yeah.
have the exact same amount of dice rolls to try to hit. And you better hope that you don't break concentration between the time that you cast it and it comes back around to you. Again, I know it's a cantrip, but there are some classes that don't get a ton of cantrips. To take one of these, to me, seems completely useless. And I looked online. Yes, there's some niche uses you could do if you're, I think even a rune knight might be able to get some benefit of it, or if you really want this
You have to
one to hit.
multi-class.
But I'm like, really? You're gonna have to go all through these hoops to just get
Yeah.
an
A
advantage?
whole build around a useless cantrip.
Oh my god.
It truly is like I read this spell over and over, and I'm like, no, all of that ain't worth it. So
Yeah.
that is my pathetic. I have a few others if we have time, but yeah, that one tops the list.
Yeah.
That was low hanging fruit. That one.
Yeah, that one was Hey, listen, honorable mention to find traps.
Yeah.
My God, terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible.
Oh,
spell.
I know.
As written, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It.
Oh,
You
there's
don't
a
even know where
trap
it
up
is.
there somewhere. Well, you probably kind of
Somewhere
knew that
over
anyway.
there.
Oh, up there
Yeah.
somewhere.
It
there's
can't
a
be
trap.
cast as a ritual. It is. That's another completely worthless one. But
It's not even
Yeah.
as good as up there. It's like somewhere around here.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know
in
what I
your
mean?
line
It's
of sight,
Yeah.
but 120 feet area, and it doesn't tell you exact location. And also, too, let's say you're in a smaller place, line of sight. If you don't have it, you don't detect it. So
Yeah.
you turn a corner, boom, there you go. No,
Yeah.
truly a waste
It's
of
basically a spell doing an investigation check for you. But
That's all it
poorly,
is.
Poorly.
A little
Exactly.
more range, but you don't know exactly where,
No.
where it was. So yeah, that's
No.
it. Barry?
Well, I'm jumping up in levels here. This is a level 4 divination spell, Arcane Eye.
Hmm.
Now, I personally, and this is
Interesting.
from experience, I find that Arcane Eye is the dungeon exploration killer.
Oh, see, more exploration killing.
Well, it's similar aspect to you. It's taking out something that made the game exciting, which was exploration, where you might come around the corner and be surprised by the goblin, and you sit there while the wizard creates an invisible magical eye that can go. I think
It's far. I'm pretty sure.
Like a
yeah,
mile or something.
300 feet, maybe longer.
yeah, it's far, but so now you have an invisible eyeball exploring the dungeon instead of you. And as a DM, you're like, oh, there goes all the excitement of you guys exploring the dungeon. And the rest of the group just sits there while the wizard goes, okay, I'll move to the next room now. Tell us about it. Okay, I'll move to the next room now. Tell us about it. And it's just like, that's like peeking behind the damn curtain. Like, why would you want to do that to yourself in a game? Now, Colin and I were talking about this before we started. It can be used in less destructive ways.
Mhm.
You want to see around a corner, but then why would you cast a spell and not just have the sneaky rogue poke his head around the corner, right? Like, and to me, it's also doubling up on how people use familiars. If you got a wizard, he's got a set of eyes that can go exploring. And so you squash his familiar. Okay, whatever. He'll just get another one as soon as he gets back to town the next day, right? So to me, it's one of these spells that's similar to you, Max. It removes an element of the game that is exciting and brings difficulty and makes the challenge. When you can explore the dungeon without any risk at all, what's the point of going out adventuring? Just become a tax lawyer and sit in
And Barry,
town.
you ready for this? There is no limit
Yeah.
to how far away from you it can travel.
It just has a certain speed. Has a certain speed you
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah,
But
fine, whatever.
you can sit back in the trees on the hill overlooking
Oh, yeah.
that enemy
Yeah.
occupied village. Just have them go. Forget
Yeah.
about your rogue needing to risk his life
Yeah.
to go and
Yeah.
scope out the place.
By the way,
It,
guys,
it
this is
almost
true
eliminates
excitement
the
for rest of the
rogue,
team.
right? It's like
Yeah.
you have a rogue
It's
in
so
your
fun.
party to do the sneaking. Oh no, we'll send Arcane Eye in.
Yeah.
And let's think about the medieval ages. It says solid barriers and locks can stop the movement.
Yeah.
A medieval door probably had a gap under it larger than an inch, and this
Oh,
thing
yeah.
can fit through openings an inch in diameter. So you're not stopping it unless it's like a finely crafted door or
Vault.
it's just like damn
And
lame.
again, from a game standpoint, it is so riveting for the rest of the table
Oh
to
yeah.
just sit here and have the TM tell us, okay, you go down a hallway. There's a door on your left. There's a door on your right. You keep
Yeah.
going. Oh, there's a cavern. And you're just sitting there going,
That's
oh,
when your
God.
rogue's thinking he should have took assassin and got rid of the wizard long ago.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, that's mine. Arcane Eye. I think it's
Arcane
one of these
Eye.
spells that take away a level of excitement in the game, and it's just not useful. It's not useful. Magic for the sake of magic. Pointless.
Yeah. I mean, and just to our conversation, Barry, we're having, it is very much how the spell is utilized. If it isn't overused, you use it just to look into that hole and see what's in there, or look over a wall or something, and then the group gets back to it again. It can be okay, but yeah, if you explore an entire dungeon with it, and
Yeah.
it's pretty boring for the rest of the group, for sure.
I sorry, just to add one other thing. So we've had a campaign where our wizard had this and used it, and Colin came up with a really creative way for a DM to kind of, well, just handicap it a little, for lack of a better term. And he's like, so you need to map it out and draw it out yourself. I'm just giving you a visual description.
Oh,
You don't have a
makes sense.
photographic memory, so you need to draw. And so he was like, oh, okay, and all of a sudden it was a game changer. Like, don't just open up the map for the player. No, just describe it to them, and then they got to draw it out what they think and what they can remember. And that was a good way to kind of bring it back down to, okay, I'm not going to use this every time now because it's a onus is on the wizard now to have a memory. Unless, of course, they take that feat where they have a
Keen mind.
photographic keen mind.
Oh, God. Keen mind and Arcane Eye.
Yeah.
Arcane Eye.
Arcane Eye.
Good Lord.
All right, for me, you know what? I talked about this. I don't really have spells I hate.
Yeah.
I dislike the way that some spells are used. You're free to use the spell however you want, but I hate when, and I mean, Barry, your Arcane Eye is a perfect example. I hate when people ruin their own fun with a spell. You know, like Arcane Eye. You go and explore an entire dungeon with an Arcane Eye. For the sake of discussion, the one that I'm going to talk about, I hate Firebolt as a cantrip because it's a really powerful cantrip when you're first starting out. I hate it in terms of being used at a low level. I mean, it's so I'll just read it here. You hurl a mote of fire at a creature or object within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 1d10 fire damage. A flammable object hit by the spell ignites if it isn't being worn or carried. And the spell, it does increase at 5th, 11th. But what I hate about it is it almost becomes, for a lot of builds, a default spell because it just becomes, oh, well, now I'm doing almost as much damage as the fighter and his sword with this cantrip that I can keep using over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I think it's almost like a crutch spell. Like if it was first level, okay, it's burning up slots now, you know, but as a cantrip that you could just fire endlessly 1d10, like
Don't get me started. I hate the combat cantrip. Giving
Yeah.
wizards unlimited spells that do damage was the worst thing in my opinion, they did to wizards because it made them so that they never have to cast their spells.
they never
So
have
what's
to
the point of
cast their
giving them?
spells. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. Like it becomes
They need to
this
temper those.
like if it was less damage or moved up into first level, you know, I would be okay with it. But I mean, 1d10 is pretty solid damage when you're low levels.
Most fighters aren't getting up
Yeah.
to that level.
Most fighters
for a while,
aren't
right?
you know, don't have a 1d10 weapon possibly at
ranged.
that level. Yeah.
Well, you do get to add the bonuses though, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of
Yeah.
averages out. But yeah, you're right. But then fighters don't have spells as well.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like wizards shouldn't have a combat cantrip. Lots of utility, lots of like really cool things, but
Yeah.
being able to like, especially warlocks and what is it?
Eldritch
Every
Blast.
that's what every warlock becomes an Eldritch Blast slinger. That's it, because it's so good. Why would you not
Yeah.
use it?
And levels up. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the key is that it levels up. Maybe they should treat it like a, you know, like you get so many per short rest, like per level, right?
Yeah.
So
Different
you can't
discussion.
just unlimited.
Different discussion.
Yeah.
Different video.
Yeah, different video.
Yeah, we'll add
I know
that.
what you
We'll
mean.
add that
I know
one
what you
to
mean.
the queue, Egan.
I mentioned rules. My bad.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Max.
It's okay.
All right, and in the chat here, we had Basket Trick. Now, I'm not actually familiar with that one. I think was that a
Rope
3?
trick? Does he mean rope trick?
No, Basket Trick. So it's basically blink, but you cannot choose where you move, but instead you pop back in a random spot that could be dangerous. So I actually was looking it up. I didn't get to see what.
Like, why would you take that spell?
Hey, nothing like guessing where you might be. But yeah, I can see how that would. Like,
I think he means
why,
blink.
Why wouldn't you take?
No,
blink?
there is a spell called
No,
Basket
there is
Trick.
a spell called Basket Trick. Yeah.
Really? What edition is it in? Or what?
That's what I was
module?
trying to figure out. But
There's rope trick. I know there's rope trick, where
It's-
you can go into like a pocket hideaway.
I did a quick. It said Basket Trick.
I think it showed up in a couple novels.
Was a
Forgotten
spell
Realms.
unique to Zakhara, the Land of Fate. The spell was usable only by wizards. So, in one of the versions of
Gotcha.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you just take blink? You know,
Yeah.
Why would
Misty
you?
Step.
Yeah, why would you risk not knowing where you're going to end up?
Randomly
So,
teleports to nearby baskets. Oh my
Yeah.
So
god.
there, I mean, and there has to be a
there's
basket.
yeah, it says I said here there's 3 baskets that pop up and it randomly puts you in one. So
Oh, okay. So it's like
yeah, it's like a very
stealth trick.
a very random way to so
Yeah.
that yeah, I you
It's
know, and there are
hilarious.
spells
That's
like
actually
that.
kinda
It's like
cool.
when there's another spell that almost does the same thing and is way
Yeah.
better. Like there's so many spells that are like that. You're just like, why would I choose that one when this one is clearly better? But
We knew this was going to be a hard one to wrangle in.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
So
they-
wow, we're not doing too bad, guys.
Oh yeah, we got through that, no problem.
Honorable mention?
Let's wrap her up a little bit here, and so Max, your final thoughts on spells you love, spells you hate, and just spells in general. Any
I
last
know we
thoughts?
start. Yeah, my thought is this: we start to get dramatic when we're talking about like rules and spells and things that we're on the dislike column. But overall, we enjoy these things more than we dislike them. So don't get the wrong impression. We're not like we don't want people to be like, "Well, you should just change your system then. Play something else."
Yeah.
It's not like that. You know what I mean?
No, no.
And we choose to play in a way that we avoid these sorts of things because we know that they can be detrimental. And by all means, again, if you're a beginner, if you're new to the game, just play what feels fun to you because it's good to experience it. So just enjoy whatever is allowed. You know what I mean? Don't worry about what other people think about it. You get your own play experience and you evolve as a player on your own terms and stuff like that. So just enjoy it. Enjoy spells. They are really fun.
Oh, they
They're
are
powerful and
absolutely.
fun. Yeah.
Egan.
Yeah, I'm going to say that what I liked most about this project that we had for this tavern talk is mostly on the pathetic side, and I had a few that I saw. What was great is doing research and the incredibly creative ways some people use what I would consider pathetic or bad
Yeah.
spells,
Yeah.
and it blows you away. And so I will say that look at spells from all angles on how to use them, right? To make it fun. Bigby's hand is a perfect example. Yeah, you could smash people, but why not just lift yourself up or create a platform to save yourself? So use these spells that you might not think are very useful and maybe turn it into creative ways. Because as Max said, spells are a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Barry.
I'm going to expand on Egan's point. I think magic is as interesting and useful as the players make it. So, like if you want to play a bumbly, crazy wizard, pick some of the spells everybody think is garbage and make it
Yeah.
your own.
Yeah.
Like play magic to better the story. Don't play magic to end things and finish things. Make it interesting. Don't play the power game. Play the game where you make it fun and interesting for everybody. Like, oh, you cast a spell that you shouldn't have, and now there's fog cloud, and now both you and the enemy can't see each other. Like, oh, you thought it was a good spell. Like play it to add to the story instead of taking it away. And no matter what spell you pick, you'll be able to find interesting and fun ways to use it. Like you say, be clever, be creative, and they're all fantastic.
In that spirit, play a wild magic sorcerer.
Play
Yeah.
Wild Magic. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off and just say prestidigitation. Now you know how to say it, so you too can use that spell. I literally, for so long, I'm like, I don't even know how you pronounce that, so I'm not even going to try and use it.
I'm never gonna take it.
I'm never
ever.
going to use it because I don't. I'm going to use prestidigitation. Well, you know which spell I mean.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love magic. Magic is obviously a huge part of what makes fantasy adventure, and spells are at the heart and soul of magic. And so just I would just really, to what all you're saying, I love it when people come up with really interesting ways to use the spell, not the really the expected way to use it, but really come up with a unique way to use a spell. I'm as a DM, I'm like, I'm gonna give you all the possible leeway I can if you come up with a cool way to use the spell, because it adds so much to the game. And this is another topic, I think, gents, that we can probably dig into again one day and talk about some of our spells that we have researched, have interesting ways of using, just to educate one another on some interesting ways to to use spells. I think we can still have lots of fun with this one. But for today, I think we better call this episode done. So we'll call that a wrap for episode 16 of Roll by Roll's Tavern Talk. Hopefully, everyone's enjoyed tonight's topic. Tavern Talks occur on the Tuesday after each of our Saturday night adventures in Emathan. We post the video on Thursdays, so that'll be up on our YouTube channel on Thursday. Our next session is scheduled for this Saturday, which is, what is that, guys?
The 11th?
11th? That sounds right. Yep.
The 11th.
Yep, March 11th. So, if you do happen to be watching this episode on YouTube, please support us by making sure you like the videos and subscribe to our channel. Hit that little bell icon so you'll be alerted to when our next session occurs. So, to end the episode, first of all, I want to thank our superfan for stopping by again tonight and chatting during the episode. That's fantastic. So, as we do, we'll offer up a cheers to all in attendance. Thanks for joining us in the tavern, and hopefully you can join us next time. Cheers, guys. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Good night.
Good night.